Welcome to the Online Digital Marketing Podcast. We'll be discussing marketing strategies, trends, and tips that will help your business succeed in the digital age. Every episode, we'll be interviewing industry professionals and providing valuable insights on how to leverage digital tools for maximum engagement and ROI. Don't forget to subscribe so you can stay up to date on the latest trends in online marketing.
Picture this. You are staring at your computer screen, and you've been staring at this exact same project for weeks.
Oh, yeah. We have all been there.
Right. I mean, maybe it's this massively complex, automated 10-email marketing funnel. Or maybe it's the back-end architecture for a new software feature.
And you're just tweaking the branch logic for email number 8 over and over.
Exactly. You are trying to make the server load balancing absolutely flawless before a single user even signs up. You are trying to make it all, quote-unquote, perfect before a single soul actually lays eyes on it.
Which, I mean, it feels incredibly productive, right?
It does. You're putting in the hours. But what if I told you that exact instinct, that deep desire to perfect things in secret, is actually the very thing sabotaging your success?
It's a tough pill to swallow, but it's true.
Welcome to this custom-tailored deep dive. Today, we are tearing into the core concepts of business velocity, and this is drawn from a collection of notes based on the aggressively titled framework, Just Effing Send It.
Yeah, it's a title that doesn't exactly whisper its intentions, does it?
No, not at all.
The core premise we're analyzing today represents a total paradigm shift for anyone who has ever felt trapped in the planning phase. We are looking at why speed, not sheer intellect, not having the deepest pockets, and certainly not flawless strategic planning, is the ultimate undeniable superpower in business today.
And the mission for this deep dive is to bridge the gap between theory and your actual day-to-day work. We want to help you, the listener, fundamentally transition from a mindset of endless overthinking and preparation to a mindset of immediate, almost uncomfortable execution.
Uncomfortable is definitely the right word for it at first.
Okay, let's unpack this.
Yeah.
Because to understand why speed is so lethal to your competition, we first have to dismantle the trap most of us are currently living in.
The perfection trap.
Yeah, it's this illusion that you can somehow think your way to clarity.
Right. And that illusion is honestly the silent killer of momentum. The central bottleneck for most businesses isn't a lack of decent ideas, It's chronic hesitation disguised as diligence.
Disguised diligence. I like that phrasing.
Because people spend weeks, sometimes entirely lost quarters, engaging in what are essentially safe tasks. They build out these elaborate onboarding sequences before they have a single paying customer.
Or they spend 3 months agonizing over a brand identity.
Exactly. Or over-engineering a complex SaaS backend before validating if users even want the front-end solution. They do absolutely everything except the one thing that actually matters.
Which is putting their work directly in front of the market.
Yes. And the foundational premise we're looking at today is that perfection is the enemy of profit.
Right, because spending 3 months building out a 10-email funnel feels like real work. I mean, your calendar is full, you're exhausted at the end of the day.
But it's actually just a sophisticated hiding place.
You are hiding from the market's judgment, essentially.
Precisely. It is a defense mechanism draped in the costume of professionalism. We operate under this false assumption that if we just hold a few more strategy meetings or run a few more internal focus groups, we will magically distill the perfect offer.
But you can't, right?
No, you can't. The reality is that you cannot determine a winning strategy solely inside the echo chamber of your own head. Internal speculation is just not a substitute for external reality.
It's just guessing.
It is. True clarity, knowing definitively what your customers actually value, what they will click on, and what they'll actually pull their credit cards out for, that only comes from hard, real-world data. And you only extract that data by taking public action.
Okay, let me throw an analogy at this. Is planning a business strategy in isolation. Basically like trying to learn how to swim by reading a book on dry land.
Yeah.
You need the water, the actual market, to figure out what keeps you afloat.
I love that, yes. And what's fascinating here is that putting an offer or an ad into the world is literally the only way to get the concrete data needed to guide your next move.
It's like a comedian, right? A stand-up comedian doesn't write an hour of material in their basement and go straight to recording an HBO special.
Right. They go to a dingy open mic on a Tuesday night, they test a premise, They look at the audience, the data, and they drop the jokes that bomb.
Which are the failures.
Exactly. And they refine the bits that get a chuckle until they become massive hits. The open mic is the necessary mechanism for success.
So they use low-stakes execution to build high-stakes success?
Exactly. When you are in the basement writing, you're dealing entirely in unproven theory. The moment you put a piece of marketing or a new product feature out into the wild, you walk onto the stage.
And for getting actual feedback.
You're suddenly dealing with concrete behavioral data. The market doesn't care about the elegance of your internal theories. It responds to what is in front of it. Taking action is the sole bridge between what you assume will work and what undeniably works.
And that behavioral data, the clicks, the bounces, purchases, that serves as the actual map for your future moves.
It is infinitely more reliable than any roadmap you drew up in a boardroom.
Which logically tracks. But if action is the only way to get that map, if getting on that open mic stage is the only way to find out what's funny, why do we fight it so hard?
Well, it comes down to ego and fear.
Right. We are terrified that the action we take is going to bomb.
Fear of failure is the #1 driver of that disguised hesitation we talked about earlier. When you are stuck in the planning phase, your idea is pristine, it's safe, it hasn't been rejected by anyone yet.
It's perfect in your head.
But the moment you hit send, or publish, or launch, you open yourself up to the very real possibility that the market will say, no, we don't want this. To unlock actual business velocity, you have to fundamentally redefine the mechanism of failure.
Here's where it gets really interesting, because I want to push back on this. Let's be real for a second. If we're just throwing things out there quickly, aren't we risking embarrassing ourselves or damaging our brand with a terrible launch?
That is the most common and honestly most valid resistance to this philosophy.
Because if I rush an ad campaign and the landing page has a broken checkout link or terrible spelling, the market's no isn't giving me deep data on my product's viability. It's just telling me I was sloppy.
Right. Where is the line between moving fast to get data and just executing poorly and torching your brand? Well, we have to separate moving fast from moving carelessly. The high-speed mindset isn't about lowering your standards. It's about lowering the stakes of your initial tests.
So a broken link isn't a fast failure.
No, a broken link is just incompetence. When we talk about failing fast, we are talking about putting a functional minimum viable test into the market.
Got it.
An unsuccessful action, like an ad that runs perfectly but gets 0 clicks, or an email that is beautifully written but gets 0 replies, is not a disaster. It is highly structured, highly valuable feedback. It tells you exactly what the market doesn't value.
So the failure isn't a bug in the system. The failure is the system working properly to eliminate a bad option.
Exactly. Think about the traditional slow-moving mindset. You spend 6 months and $50,000 building one massive, monolithic campaign.
And if that fails?
It's an absolute disaster. You've exhausted your runway. But when your execution is fast and lean, failing is merely a necessary, cheap step to gather information.
You launch a small test today, you see it doesn't resonate tomorrow, and you pivot by Wednesday.
Yes. The sheer speed mitigates your risk. You are not damaging your brand because you're iterating so quickly with such small initial audience segments that the broader market barely has time to register the miss before you're presenting them with a calibrated hit.
Wow. Speed transforms failure from a fatal blow into a simple daily course correction.
That's the alchemy of it.
That completely reframes the emotional weight of a launch. It takes the pressure off. You aren't releasing your life's defining masterpiece every time you post an update. You are just sending out a cheap probe to see what the terrain looks like.
A cheap probe. Exactly.
And once you stop fearing the bombing at the open mic, start seeing it as just gathering data points, speed stops feeling reckless. It actually starts looking like a mathematical volume game.
It really does. It essentially guarantees a competitive edge, mathematically speaking.
Let's dive into that, the velocity advantage.
Let's look at the actual math of how speed scales success. Imagine you and a competitor are both trying to solve the exact same problem, like finding a profitable customer acquisition channel.
Okay, I'm with you.
Your competitor operates under the traditional model. They brainstorm, they commission a market research report, they draft, they revise, and at the end of a 30-day month, they launch one highly polished marketing funnel.
One test.
Right, one test. You, operating under this high-velocity philosophy, decide to run 2 small, distinct tests every single week. In that exact same 30-day window, you have tested 8 different angles.
So even if I'm totally guessing, statistically, my odds of finding the winner are just drastically higher because I've taken 8 swings to their one.
Yes. But it's even more powerful than just raw odds because the learning compounds. Your competitor's learning is linear. Yours is exponential.
Because I'm building on the previous week's failure.
Precisely. If your first 2 tests fail in week 1, you analyze why. By week 2, your tests are informed by the failure of week 1. Even if 6 of your 8 ideas fail, which we now know is just the process of elimination, you have still found 2 things that gain traction.
While they are still perfecting their one idea.
Your competitor hasn't even launched their first test yet. They have 0 data points. While they are still stuck perfecting their one precious theory, you are already reallocating your budget to scale the 2 things you mathematically know will work.
So what does this all mean? It means the fastest growing businesses, the ones that seem to take over a market out of nowhere, they aren't necessarily run by geniuses.
Not at all.
They didn't possess some psychic ability to predict the perfect product market fit on day 1. They are simply the organizations executing the highest volume of iterations.
They are moving so fast and processing failure so quickly that their competitors look like they are standing still.
And implementing this velocity forces a very ruthless, very healthy discipline on an organization, doesn't it?
It does. When you are committed to the math of moving fast, you simply do not have the luxury of wasting time on non-essential tasks. You cannot spend 3 weeks debating the shade of blue on a landing page if your mandate is to launch a new offer by 5:00 p.m. today.
Speed forces a business to focus entirely on revenue-generating actions.
Because those are the only actions that yield data.
Okay, so the theory is airtight. The math makes total sense. The psychology of overcoming fear is clear. But let's bring this down to earth for the person listening right now.
Let's do it.
Because we need a high-speed playbook. It's really easy for us to sit here and say launch today, but how do you actually filter your to-do list to make sure you're doing revenue-generating actions instead of just busy work?
That's a great question. If we connect this to the bigger picture, the filter for your to-do list is remarkably binary.
Oh, really?
Yeah. You just ask, does this specific task put my business directly in front of a customer? That's it. Revenue-generating actions are entirely market-facing.
So we are talking about running and testing advertisements immediately.
Right. We are talking about direct sales outreach and cold email marketing. We are talking about putting a specific, buyable offer out into the world. Or publishing content that asks for a response.
Basically anything that touches the outside world.
Precisely. Conversely, anything internal, redesigning your logo, organizing your CRM tags, having a third Zoom meeting to discuss the theoretical positioning of a product that hasn't been built yet. All of that is non-revenue generating.
It's that disguised hesitation again.
It is. The high-speed playbook demands that you cease those safe tasks immediately. The central, unyielding question you must ask yourself every single morning is, what can I launch today?
Not what can I plan today or what can I organize today, but literally what can I launch today? Now, I want to dig into the mechanics of this because the framework actually outlines a very specific timeline for execution.
Yes, it's quite aggressive.
Let's walk through a hypothetical week. Let's say it's Monday morning. How does a high-velocity business owner operate?
Okay, the timeline is aggressive, but it's designed to shatter your hesitation. Today, Monday, you launch the initial ads and the first iteration of your offer.
Today, just like that.
Right now. You stop tweaking the copy, you get it live so the data collection engine can turn on.
Just send it.
Just send it. Then this week, let's say Tuesday through Thursday, your goal is to test 3 distinct versions of that offer. You put 3 options into the market. But here is the critical mechanism of how you test. You have to isolate your variables.
Okay, explain that. What do you mean by isolating variables?
Well, if you run 3 different ads and you change the image, the headline, the price, and the target audience all at the exact same time, and one of them fails, you have no idea why it failed.
Because there are too many moving parts.
Exactly. You learn nothing. To gather actual data, you change one thing. You run 3 ads with the exact same copy and the exact same price, but 3 completely different headlines.
Oh, I see.
Now, when one outperforms the other 2 by 40%, you know definitively that specific headline is the driver.
Got it. You are running a highly controlled, incredibly fast science experiment.
Exactly. So that brings us to Friday, or next week. You sit down with the data you gathered from those isolated tests, and you use it to adjust and optimize. But, you have to know how to read the data.
Give me an example.
Let's say you ran an ad for a new consulting package. If the ad gets hundreds of clicks, but absolutely 0 people purchase when they reach your website, the problem isn't the ad. The ad did its job.
Right. The audience liked the promise, but they didn't like the price tag or the details once they saw them. The landing page is the problem.
Right. Conversely, if the ad gets absolutely 0 clicks, you don't need to waste time rewriting the landing page. Your core hook or your image is fundamentally broken.
So the data tells you exactly what to fix.
Yes. When you operate with this level of speed and mechanical testing, you aren't guessing what to do next week. The market is literally handing you your exact to-do list based on the behavioral data of what they clicked on today.
That is incredibly clarifying, because if you know how to read the clicks versus the conversions, the failure isn't mysterious anymore. It points a giant neon arrow at the exact broken pipe in your funnel. Within one single month of adopting this approach, testing 2 or 3 variables a week, you will know exactly what works for your business. You'll have exponentially more clarity and likely more revenue than a competitor who spent that entire month just debating their strategy on a whiteboard.
You are compressing a year's worth of traditional corporate learning into 4 weeks, simply by removing the friction of trying to be perfect.
But executing this high-speed playbook, living and breathing this kind of rapid iteration day to day, it isn't just a new project management tactic. As we go through this material, it feels like it demands a profound shift in how you view your own professional identity.
It absolutely does. That is the ultimate underlying lesson embedded in all of this. The tactical steps, launching the ads, isolating the variables, reading the conversion data, those are just the symptoms of a deeper psychological shift.
What's the core shift then?
The ultimate question you have to ask yourself is, are you someone who thinks or are you someone who executes?
Oh, wow. That's heavy, because let's be honest. Society really romanticizes and rewards the image of the thinker, right? We idolize the visionary CEO staring out the window, coming up with the master plan, playing 4D chess in their mind.
We do, but the reality of the market is far more brutal and pragmatic. In business, execution is what gets paid. Ideas, no matter how brilliant, do not get paid. Elaborate plans do not get paid. And being almost ready to launch certainly does not get paid.
So you have to let go of being the smart person in the room.
To achieve this velocity, you have to actively shed the comfortable identity of the perfectionist thinker and enthusiastically embrace the identity of the scrappy executor.
And honestly, when you really internalize that, I find it incredibly liberating. You don't need to be struck by a bolt of genius. You don't need to have the highest IQ in your industry.
You really don't.
You just need to be the person who is most willing to press send before you feel 100% ready. You just need to be willing to get on the stage and hold the microphone.
Which raises an important question for anyone listening to this right now. What exactly are you waiting for?
Yeah, what's holding you back?
The ultimate mantra synthesized from this entire philosophy is this. You do not need more information. You already have enough information in your head right now to take the next physical step. What you need is more action.
Launch the offer, post the content, send the cold email.
Stop waiting for a magical feeling of total certainty that is never ever going to arrive, and let the market give you the certainty instead.
Let the market give you the certainty. That is a powerful, clarifying place to land. So, to wrap up this deep dive, if you want to shortcut your way to being well-informed, adaptable, and ultimately successful in whatever highly competitive market you operate in, you have to embrace this high-velocity philosophy.
Without a doubt.
Speed scales success, not because rushing is inherently good, but because action is the only true source of clarity. The fastest businesses win because they gather data the fastest. They fail the fastest, which means they learn the fastest. It really is that mechanical.
It's just the math of business.
Yeah, it is. But I want to leave you with a final lingering thought. Think back to that massive project we talked about at the very beginning, the complex funnel, the new product architecture, that thing you've been staring at on your screen, tweaking, adjusting, trying to get absolutely flawless.
We all have one.
We do. So if perfection is truly the enemy of profit and real clarity only comes from action, what is the one project, email, or idea you've been perfecting for weeks that you could actually launch in the next 5 minutes just to see what happens? What is your hesitation actually protecting? Thank you for joining us for this deep dive. Remember, the world rewards execution.
Ready to take your online business to the next level? Subscribe to our digital marketing podcast and then join our Accountability for Success Mastermind. With expert advice from industry leaders, you'll gain knowledge and insights that will help you succeed in today's digital marketing world. From social media strategies to search engine optimization, we have all the tools you need. Learn from successful entrepreneurs and take control of your online success. Join the Accountability for Success Mastermind now at bit.ly/AFSM podcast.